podcast.
All right, everybody, and welcome to episode 14 of the 9 Years podcast, the AFC Wimbledon audio fanzine that arrives in your inbox every Thursday. My name is Nick Draper, and I'm joined once again by the man voted Crawley's premier podcast personality 2015, Mr. Stuart Deakins. Today is the 29th of October, and we thank you very much for joining us on what continues to be the most popular AFC Wimbledon podcast available. We are number one on all the various media outlets on which you can listen to us, whether that is on iTunes, YouTube, or through downloading the MP3 on podomatic.com. But once again, however you're joining us today, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening. Now today, we start the show with a bit of Kylie Minogue. I've been accused of being a little bit grumpy at the start of the last couple of podcasts, having a little bit of a whinge. So we thought we'd try and be a little bit more light-hearted, a little bit more jovial, a little bit more uplifting on this occasion. And what's better than listening to a bit of Kylie Minogue, hey Stu? I must admit, I was sort of doing a bit of research for the opening tune this week, and as I tend to do, I sort of scouring through YouTube or Spotify or whatever, looking for different music. Came across, so to speak, Kylie's video on YouTube, and now I've never been a Kylie Minogue fan. I must admit, not in terms of music. Her music's great for what it is. Okay, she produces some fantastic pop songs. Never really fancied Kylie Minogue. Okay, and I always felt a bit weird saying it because everyone else I know sort of was in love with the woman. I never quite saw it, but you know what? Watching the video to "Better the Devil You Know," which might have a link to today's podcast as well. Yeah, she was looking alright, to be fair.
Yeah, Kylie Minogue is always weird. She's always a bit. She's too small. She died.
Too small.
What's she about? 3 foot nothing.
Is that a bad thing?
Well,
you mean height-wise?
Yeah, height-wise. Oh, yeah, right. She's always, to be fair, when I remember seeing her in Neighbours, and obviously then she become part of the famous Stock Aitken Walker label.
I don't know, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the famous label in the late 80s or 90s when pop. It's well, I say it's best, but some proper catchy stuff. But I always liked her sister better, Danny Minogue, really.
Well, this is going to be my next question. I thought you might, because you're a bit of an X Factor fan. And Danny Minogue was, I believe, a judge on the X Factor at one point, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. She was, trying to think now. But that's when she was a bit older. I don't know. Yeah. As she got older, she got a bit weird. Got a bit strange. But so when she was younger, she brought out some decent videos. Don't know about the music. I'd never heard the sound up. But, yeah.
Great. Once again, doing our bit for the feminist movement here on the 9 Years podcast. The podcast that once again I can bring the recommendation this week once again of somebody at the club. Commercial director Ivor Heller has described our podcast as respectable. I think we're getting more and more fans each week. To be honest with you, Stu, we are actually getting more and more fans each week. Our listener numbers last week they skyrocketed. So thank you very much for those of you that are spreading the word. Please continue to do so. Remember to remind people to subscribe to the podcast, and they can listen to all this great chat about Kylie Minogue, Danny Minogue, Peter Waterman. I tell you what, if you're not listening to this podcast, you're missing out so much, aren't you, really? But today we are actually talking football, I promise you. We're going to be looking at Neal Ardley's 3-year anniversary that just came around a couple of weeks back as manager of AFC Wimbledon. We'll also be talking about the trip to York, looking ahead to the weekend's football with Gary Saxby returning. We'll look at the FA Cup draw as well. Plus, we'll have a little bit of a poll on the 9 Years podcast game. But before we do that, let's go straight into chat about the trip to York on Saturday. I did not make it. Stu, you managed to go up there. You helped Robin and Trevor take the kit up to York City. Does this mean that we have some motorway service station news this week?
Well, no, not really, because I did go. I went up with Rocket and Trev. Yeah, so the team went up by train on Saturday. Good links in from to York. So it's about a couple of hours from chatting to a couple of the guys that went up by train. No real service. We didn't stop. Well, we went straight through. So. Went straight through, we left really early. I literally met the guys at the ground at 6:30, I think it was, on Saturday morning, ridiculous hour. Loaded the van up for about 15 minutes. Amazing how much stuff now. It's like a game of Jenga, trying to get all the stuff into the Kitmobile. Yeah, and Joel, we had so much stuff. We actually they've got a music box. The ghetto blaster, that sort of thing, and
a music box.
A music box. I don't know what they call them now. A ghetto blaster.
Do you mean like just sort of like a CD player, like stereo system?
Yeah, stereo system. But it was like the shape of like a small bit of luggage. You know, like the hand luggage now you take, or the it's quite a size. So we sort of said, put it on the back seat. So in the end, I had an armrest because it was in between me and Claire, who travelled up as well. So it was like an armrest for the whole way journey up there. But to be fair, it's a proper good ghetto blaster. To be fair, because after the game, it made a right sound. Which there was obviously after the game there was a bit of commotion around the changing room, so it's actually quite good sound of music on and. Take away the sounds of what was happening with the York City change room.
Bit of commotion. Can you elaborate on this at all?
Yeah, it was obviously a bit of an uneasy atmosphere. Naturally, they'd just obviously been at home. Wilcox was under a lot of pressure at that time, and after the game, basically, once the team had got on the coach and gone off to the train station, so myself and Rocket. Trev went and just tied up. Now, York City's change room is not as big as the change rooms, but to give you sort of a description, York's an old-style ground, so there's not much in terms of the back room area, but basically you've got a small aisle, you've got to go past the York City change room and the Wimbledon change room is right down the end of this corridor. So every time I literally had to take a bit of kit or on the crates or whatever, I had to walk past the York City change room, and it just wasn't a very it wasn't a nice atmosphere, not in terms of any hostilities, but just generally a lot of disappointed people, and it wasn't nice. As you knew something, I think I knew something was happening. I couldn't see any management team around, and it seemed that generally a despondent place, so it's quite obvious something was happening, and Wilcox was probably going to be out of a job very soon.
Now, you were mentioned during the game, sort of via the Periscope app and the Twitter and things like this, and to me as well, that the York fans were clearly unhappy with the management team. The atmosphere I heard was muted for large parts of the game and then turned against the manager towards the end, I believe. Are York a team do you think it does come down to the manager at this point, or are they just a team that are going to be struggling this season no matter what?
Well, I looked at a team on the way up, journey up, to be fair, and I was talking to Trevor and Rocket, as you do generally talk about football, and I looked at their team and I wasn't really too worried. I looked through the team and thought there was nobody that I was worried about. Obviously, we know about Winfield. We had him on loan last year, but we also know that basically anything with pace, anything can turn him, anything going behind him, it's going to be a problem. So, obviously, on the way up, we were thinking, obviously, Akinfenwa was probably going to have a good battle with Winfield and then probably release someone like Taylor. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way because Bayo wasn't fit and didn't travel. But I look at the team. From what I hear, there's 3 players on the transfer list. They didn't play with any real tempo. They never really got a ball. We won throughout the game. We won every second ball, and for the first 15 minutes, it was really a case of when we were going to score. I was doing the updates on the AFCW scope, and I called it really early on. I was like, it's a matter of time before we score, and I think about 2 minutes later we did. But York, even when York equalised, obviously midway through the second half, you never felt they were going to have enough to really believe they were going to win. And I think that's what it was. I think the belief wasn't there. And the crowd didn't really leave too much. All the crowd really did was just start singing Wilcox out and that sort of things. And it felt to me that York fans wasn't the most disappointed. They lost the games. I think it was the ones that maybe pushed their board to make a decision that they all wanted. Whether that's the right thing or not, I'm not a believer in managers losing their jobs after 12 games. I find that hard, to be honest with you. But I think managers should be given more of a chance, and we're thankfully, obviously, we're going to talk about it a little later in the podcast, but we're thankful. We've got a manager who's been in the job for 3 years and building something. I just wonder whether Wilcox is given a chance to build anything there.
Looking at it from our perspective, then we'll come on to our performance in terms of scoring goals, conceding goals. There was a glaring error from our new goalkeeper, Ben Wilson, that's come in on loan from Cardiff, who's come in place of James Shea, who's carrying a little bit of an injury, come in instead of Joe McDonnell, who has remained on the bench. Do you think it's a wise decision that we've brought someone in on loan, or do you think it's maybe going to knock the confidence or the prospects of McDonnell, who could probably rightly be questioning, if I'm good enough to spend a whole season and the start of this season on the bench, surely I'm good enough when the time comes to go straight into the first team?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I'm a strong believer in that we now need to start bringing through our youths, and I watched under 21s quite a lot for the last couple of seasons, and Joe McDonnell's one that I've seen, and last year when he got called in, I remember saying to yourself and a few other my mates that wasn't overly concerned, done well in the under 21s, thought was a good young goalkeeper, and my first impression when Shea got, obviously we told Shea was out with a groin injury, was that bring O'Donnell in, and then we also got a loanee in. I think it depends how Ardley sold it to McDonnell. I think I would hope that he'd have had a chat with him and explained why he was doing it and for the reasons. In terms of Wilson, the first time I see him, I didn't get to Accrington, but one thing I will say, his kicking from dead ball was excellent. One of the things I felt that Shea struggled with this year, and it's probably no surprise when you look back that he's had a groin injury, was that his kicking was his best part, I felt, of his game last year, where he could hit Bayo with a ball and build attacks, and we just didn't have that this year. I wasn't too sure. I'm still not too sure that Bayo is as good. We've gone on that before, but it's noticeable on Saturday that Wilson was able to pick out Lyle Taylor, George Frankham with ease, and really we were able to build attacks so easily from a final third. He didn't really have much to do in terms of saves. Yes, the error he made wasn't good. To give a bit of insight with it, that the sun was shocking. The sun was coming in. You could see every time a ball went from cross field that they all were putting their hands over the eyes, and maybe in hindsight he maybe should have punched it rather than trying to catch it, or maybe just leaving it to be one to be headed out. But from what I saw, I was really impressed, and he's a confident lad, and the defence definitely seemed confident having him behind him. So maybe it has worked out, but I would hope we've explained it well to McDonnell that he's still in our plans. Otherwise, it puts us a bit of a back step on our youth products.
3 goals then, taking our tally for the week to 9 goals in the past 3 games. With that in mind, who might be, in your thoughts, for your hero of the week?
I think it's a no-brainer. If you look from the week in terms of Accrington, then through to York, Lyle Taylor wins it hands down. He really now is starting to come into his own. I think, in hindsight, the injury that he got, the injury sustained as someone getting sent off. I think when he got sent off at Mansfield, the 3-week break has done him really well. It's been well recorded that they've worked on him in training. Whether he had a good pre-season or not, we're not too sure. So he's had like a little late pre-season, but Lyle Taylor in this league, I think, is probably one of the top strikers. He's very confident. His link play is really good. He's a strong lad, so he's able to hold his own against good defenders. Winfield on Saturday couldn't really knock him off the ball. They tried to mix it because you've got Lowe as well, who used to be at Cheltenham, who's a steady old defender. He's a very steady league too, but they couldn't deal with his power and the vision that he made for the goal for Danny Baldwin up at Accrington. Yeah, he's had a great week, and Lyle Taylor wins it hands down. Do we have a villain for the week? Not really. I don't think there's been anyone. I think it's very difficult to have a villain when you think about we lost 5-2 at home to Mansfield, and the world was going to cave in for a lot of us, and we especially if you didn't even play Mansfield. Mansfield. Yeah, it was Morecambe, wasn't it? Yeah,
Okay.
it started with them, did it? It was close. After the world fall in, after we did lose against 5-2 against Morecambe, we've bounced back. We, 4-3 and a 3-1, scoring goals, well up on the form guide now, and I don't think you can have anyone that's played bad. We've conceded goals, but we bounced back and we scored goals at the right end this last couple of games. So, no, I think it'd be very difficult to give a villain of the week as such.
FA Cup draw as well this week. Forest Green Rovers at home, non-league team. I think, Stu, it's the first time we've been drawn against a non-league team since we became members of the Football League once more in 2011. What did you make of the draw?
Yeah, it's a good draw. I just didn't want an away game. I just wanted to be fair. The worst team, which I think was, or the lowest placed team, which I think was Didcot Town at home. We didn't get there. We got Forest Green. And draw. Forest Green had a great start to conference. I think they won their first 9. But they've got a strong team, spent money well. They've got a few ex-Newport players who dropped down. They've got David Pike, who's a right back. They've got, obviously, Darren Jones, who left ourselves, and Aaron O'Connor, who is too good for conference. And, of course, big John Parkin. So, they're decent. I'm not overly worried, if I'm being truthful. I think it's a winnable game. And, we've got a home draw. So, happy days.
You can never complain about a home draw. We don't seem to get enough of them. Other bit of business to attend here before we get on with our main topic for today. The outcome of the first stadium vote, the Back in 2 Ticks campaign. Vote number 1 has finished, and finished with a resounding yes. There was a turnout. We needed a minimum turnout of 50%. We got a turnout of 86%. So very, very well done to all those involved in the Dons Trust board that managed to get that number of people to turn out. And I believe that of that 86%, we had something like 98%. Yes, 98% in favour. A resounding success. First vote passed. We're now on to the second one. And if you are a Dons Trust member, please check your inbox, your email inboxes, your letterboxes as well. More information has been sent out. Your opportunity to vote, to cast your proxy vote, is now open for the second vote. And once again, please vote yes. There is a full timeline for vote 2 available on the Dons Trust website. So if you go to www.thedonstrust.org, and you'll find out all the information you need. You mentioned there the idea that the sky seemed to be falling in on us after the Morecambe defeat last Saturday. It brings us nicely onto our main point for today, which is the status of our manager. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Neal Ardley actually celebrated 3 calendar years in charge of the club. He was appointed on the 10th of October, I believe, 2012, right in the middle of our relegation battle. You might think that's October's fairly early to say that we were in the middle of a relegation battle, but as we know, looking back, looking at the squad that we had at the time and looking at the start of the season we were in deep trouble, and we knew that we were going to be fighting to stay up for the entire season. He kept us up that year. He's now been here for, as I say, 3 years. We wanted to sort of look, because a lot of our fans have started to show a little bit of unrest. Now, I say a lot of our fans, this is generally something that seems to have raised its head away from the match day. So we're talking the various guest books, Facebook groups, Twitter and so on, okay? But anecdotally, speaking to people at the stadium and at the ground as well, there are people that aren't sure. There are people that have not been sure since day one. I remember speaking to people in the final throes of that first season of his in charge who didn't believe he was the right man to have been appointed, thought we needed a man with a lot more experience. But I think over the course of the following seasons, he's shown that he's improving us as a club, not just in regards to our league position, which has improved year on year, but also with the infrastructure beneath that. And we are upwardly mobile. There are some complaints that the first team are continuing to make similar mistakes, things such as conceding leads, dropping points from having taken the lead, not scoring enough goals, struggling to score goals and to stop conceding goals from set pieces. But Stu, as a whole, if you were to judge Neal Ardley on his 3 years in charge, what sort of grading would you give him?
Well, yeah, Grading wise, I think he's done an excellent job. I think by his own, when we brought him in, we weren't bringing in an experienced manager. We all knew that. We were bringing someone with a connection to Wimbledon, someone who we probably knew at that time would have the fans on his side and be wishing him well straight away. We also had someone who'd been at Cardiff for probably about 5 years as the head of academy, wasn't it? Head of the academy up there, and he come with a good grounding. He probably come. I think when Neal come and by his own admission, he come with a tactical awareness that was probably better than what we'd had in the club. But he also come with not really knowing League Two, and I think League Two, probably that first season and probably in the first couple of months, probably caught him out a little bit. And I think he's. I know I've heard many interview him before that he obviously was probably not prepared for League Two, but then. That team we had, if we're being honest, I don't think anyone would have been prepared. We were in a real dire straits back in October in 2012. Grading wise, like I say, I'm a big fan of Neal Ardley. Yes, I know people will highlight the fact that he's making the same mistakes, or his teams are making the same mistakes, and so forth. But I would grade him very highly. I think what we've got to be careful of with Neal Ardley at the moment is that. By going to 3 years, I think we're getting to a stage where some fans are going, well, he's had 3 years. What's he done in 3 years? He's not moving the club forward. But what is progression? We have to look at what do we class as progression? Do we class as progression finishing higher each year? Do we find progression on terms of the class of players that we have? If we look on year on year, the actual players he's able to recruit into the club. If you look this year, there's some of the players we've recruited in terms of Lyle Taylor, Elliott, already Andy Barcham, who's been a big crowd favourite. Even to the players he's brought in, Christian Tunga, Paul Robinson. The year before that, Danny Bullman, he managed to get over the line. He managed to bring in Akinfenwa, and let's not forget he brought in Matt Tubbs as well. So one of the things I always say when people say, yeah, but he hasn't done a great lot and stuff like that, I always say his recruitment, I think, is really, really good. And a lot of players that come to Wimbledon openly say they come because of Neal Ardley, because of how he sells a club and so forth like that. So I think he's done a really good job. I think tactically sometimes he tries to be a bit too cute. He has adapted it. He's realised that League Two is about a big physical side. And if you look at the height in our team now, you wouldn't believe it when we can't defend a set piece, mind you. I think now he's realised that you need big, strong players in this league. But I think we're getting to a crossroads where I think some fans are thinking 3 years, he's had long enough. But I would argue, what do you class as success? Because I think he's been very successful for us.
Definitely, when you look at recruitment, to ping you up on the point there, without his recruitment, and we were aided by a bit of extra cash that came our way purely by chance in that first season, but the money that we got from that, he recruited fantastically well with, and the acquisitions he made in that first season pretty much kept us up. If you look back at some of the names, I'm thinking Brennan Dickinson, for instance, had a big influence for us in those few games. Gary Alexander, scoring goals, assisting goals, massive influence. Goalkeepers as well. A couple of Sullivans that joined us at that time. But we talk now about moving on and increasing. I think the quality of the squad, as you say, has improved year on year. Looking at his record over the 3 years, okay, he's got 158 games now, according to the statistics I've got, of which he's won 49 and lost 62. He's got a win percentage of 31%, which, to be fair, we could be here all night discussing expectations for our club. At the moment, with our budget, with our size of club, and with the fact that we have grown from nothing to Football League Club in 9 years, okay, we have to be realistic and say, do you know what? Keep our League 2 status and build on it. And we did that. Next year we finished higher up the table. Last season, higher up the table again. And at the moment, we're top half pushing. We're within touching distance of the playoffs as we speak right now. So I think the improvement is there for everyone to see, personally speaking. Okay. I think the other important thing we have to sort of mention is, where do we as a club want to be with our managers in terms of, do we want managers to come in and have an impact and get us to the next level as quickly as possible? We have in the past. Let's not lie about that one. Obviously, when we formed and we were moving up through the leagues, it was a case of, well, we've got ourselves out of the Combined Counties League. Now we need a manager to get us as quickly as possible out of the Ryman League. Okay, that manager hasn't got us there in the time we had actually hoped for, so let's get another man in. he's going to take us up now further each time. But you look through to the English football as a rule at the moment, and the trend does seem to be that stability long term is not what clubs are interested in. They're in for the quick fixes. And as a case in point, Neal Ardley now, after 3 years, is of the 91 proper football managers of proper football clubs in the country, he is the 10th longest serving. Is the whole culture in this country wrong? And are we right now, ignoring win percentages and speed of improvement, are we right to actually go for the long game and say, right, we're going to put you in charge, you've got time, there's no pressure, build something long term?
No, I agree. I think it's spot on in terms of it is. I sort of maybe alluded it back when I moaned. Well, I have moaned about the Russell Wilcox sacking at York. I find it mad after 12 games that you're all of a sudden saying that he's not good enough. Now I know, and clubs panic. They see themselves down at the bottom of the league, and they're like, "Well, we'll bring someone else in." But not to harp on with York, but York done it with Nigel Worthington the year before. They sacked him after a similar amount of games, and then brought Russell Wilcox in to save it. And doing the same thing again. I don't want, personally, us to be in that way. I want someone to come in, be given the chance, build something, And Neal Ardley has done that. Now, he's not directly involved in the youth football. We've got some great people behind the scenes who've been doing a great job for probably like the last 9-10 years at that level. However, we have a manager who's happy to bring players through. And if you look at the squad now, we have benches now each week, and they're mostly filled with youth players. What I would want to see in the next sort of 3-4 years, and I'm quite happy to see if Ardley was there for the next 3 or 4 years going into New Plough Lane, of having a squad that is actually full of youth products. If you look at Crewe are a great example, and I think it's something that we should be striving to replicate, and I think we are. But Crewe very rarely go out and get a loan signing. When they get an injury, they bring another kid in from the academy, and they fill their squad through that way. I don't see, if we were going to be a club that was going to keep bringing in a manager for a short fix, would the manager in a short fix want to be bothered with the youth? Because he'd actually seeing his lifespan as a manager is probably going to be a season. Why would you bother with the youth? I think we give Neal Ardley confidence to say you can be trusted, you can use your youth team. We're not going to then do a knee-jerk reaction. And I just don't think. I think what you said about the culture, I think fans do see that managers come and go very quickly. Like, I look at some of the list here, and Neil's, what do we say, he's 11th at the moment in that list?
He's 10th of, if we're looking at the list of 91 proper
football managers,
normal people, excluding Watford. He is 10th out of 91.
So it's amazing. If you look here, you've got Richard Money above him at the moment. He's going to be gone at Cambridge. I think that's odds on. They spent a lot of money. They're not going to stick for what they've got. Gareth Ainsworth's just above him. And probably you could say Wickham obviously dropped out. The funny thing I'll just say about Crewe, Steve Davis at Crewe has been there 3 years now, so he's approaching nearly 4 years. And I think Crewe are the sort of club we should be looking to follow. I really do. But yeah, fan culture is different. I think we have to accept that just as much as we are a club that's growing, we do have new fans and fans that are easy influence. It's like a case of the buck stops the manager. If team don't do well, we get the manager out. But I really feel we have to be patient, and I'm quite strong on that. I think we have a good structure at the club that gives a manager the trust to go and do what they want. And I think that the youth is a big side of that, and I think Neal Ardley is a perfect person to continue that growth.
The buck stops with the manager is certainly an attitude that has filtered down from the Premier League, absolutely. If you look at the Russell Wilcox for York, for instance, he was the second manager to lose his job in League Two this season following Terry Butcher at Newport. And again, people will look at the Newport situation and say, well, John Sheridan's come in and results-wise, he's already picked up results in the short term. Okay, but long term, you're looking at managerial appointments. You want those managerial appointments to have an effect long term, surely. But in the Premier League at the moment, you're not seeing that long term approach. Sunderland are an amazing example. They just seem to sack their manager every season or lose a manager every season because they get that short-term impact, but they can't carry it any further. Tim Sherwood at Aston Villa's just lost his job. Short-term impact, hasn't been able to carry it on, but already, after 10 games, has been jettisoned. And going back to that argument about the buck stopping with the manager, is it always the manager's fault? Is Tim Sherwood to blame for the situation that Aston Villa are in? I personally don't happen to think so. I think there's a lot of problems higher up that's gone into the recruitment process. Similar with Sunderland, again, the recruitment process, which seems to be being taken away from the managers at these clubs, has left them sort of fighting a losing battle, I think. You even look now at other Premier League clubs, and I'm going to mention Chelsea at this point. We're 10 games into the season, and we're talking about a manager that's just won the double, like, how many months ago? 4 months ago? 5 months ago? And we're 10 games into the season, and there's a clamour. And there is a clamour amongst the media and elements of the Chelsea support. I think there's an element of excitement that someone's going to lose their job. It's like they almost are enjoying this prospect that they're going to be able to get someone out of their job. And sadly, some of the clamour about Neal Ardley, actually, after the Morecambe game last week, had echoes of that, where there seemed to be a little bit of a mini witch hunt generating, where they were just like, oh, we can smell blood, let's go in for the kill.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny you should say that, because it's funny at Chelsea, let's be fair. We all laugh about the Chelsea situation.
Well, absolutely, yeah, of course.
But you're right. I think you actually touched on something that's an interesting thing that is probably approaching in League Two now in terms of press and stories. The media, the Premiership is the biggest league in the world. It's got the biggest focus on, and I think managers in a Premiership realise that if they get a season or 2 seasons, they've done well. But let's not forget they get paid well also in terms of their payoffs. You know, I think what job do you not succeed and get paid off for not succeeding? I wish I was in that sort of job. Yeah. But I agree with you with Tim Sherwood, recruitment. Anyone who can lose the players that he lost, you know, Benteke, we lost Cleverly,
Delph.
and obviously one that went, you know, Delph, who decided that Man City was a better club for him and then got injured very quickly early on, didn't he? But, you know, if you're going to lose, and I think with Villa, talking about youth, Villa said they were going to go with youth, and they actually did heavily invest. And then all of a sudden they've gone and sacked their manager. But I don't think that was a surprise. Chelsea, Mourinho's doing what he normally does at most clubs, and he's basically self-destructing and probably going to be leaving very soon. But in terms of press, you probably touched on something. There is a lot of press in League Two.
Yeah.
And even for a club like Wimbledon, you know, we're a podcast. We're very much, you know, we try and provide a balanced view. But if you look at the amount of press that's going around Wimbledon, you know, it's been commented on some guest books that Neal Ardley seems to say the same things, or he's basically trying to get himself away from losing the game, and it was the players that lost the game. The amount of press now that it's very difficult for Neal to really say something different, or to not go the angle that the moment he loses a game, then of course they're going to be talking about you've been here 3 years. You know, there was booing at the last game. I think Neal has put himself under some silly pressure. He looks. I said on the way out to York, to me it looks like Neal was aged so quickly in the last 2 or 3 months. So he seems to be very much saying, I've said the same things, it's not working, and putting a lot of pressure on himself, which I think he does anyway. But I just think we just need to let the guy breathe. You know, we were, after Morecambe, don't get me wrong, I wasn't walking out of the game at Morecambe smiling. Well, actually, I was laughing because I just laughed at how easy
it was a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, the 4th of goal just summed up what a bad afternoon it was. But I didn't really get people, and there was a lot of people around me swearing and saying, Neal, it's time to go out, it's your fault. The funny thing is, they're going to walk back in on Saturday against Hartlepool with a team that's sitting 6th, I believe, in the form guide. It's, you know, football changes so quickly. Yeah. And I think, you know, we just have to stop doing these knee-jerk reactions and get behind a team and let's judge a team at the end of the season. The chances are that we're not going to get rid of Neal Ardley. We haven't got a board that's going to sack Neal Ardley. I don't believe it 1 minute. I don't believe he deserves that either. I think when Neal does leave, it'll be by his own choice. But I also think he'll leave when he's done the job that he needs to do, and I think that's getting us back to New Power Lane and getting us out into this division.
2 things I want to pick up on then very quickly. Number one, you say about it seems to be at the moment that clubs will have a manager in place for a couple of seasons, 2 or 3 seasons at most. It was interesting to hear Phil Neville, owner of Salford City FC and coach of Valencia, I still believe at the moment, speaking on the radio over the weekend, mentioning that he'd love to get into management, but he'd do so under the knowledge that he'd be going into it for 2 or 3 years, and that will pretty much probably be his time up. So it's almost the expectancy now amongst those in the profession that it is a very short-term job, which is interesting to hear. I never actually heard anyone in the job acknowledge as much, which was interesting. The second thing is, we're talking about fans and wanting to get rid of managers. It's an interesting one. As a Wimbledon fan, in my experience, now, who was manager of Wimbledon when you first started watching, Stu?
Me would have been Bobby Gould.
And then for me it was Joe Kinnear. So we're sort of we're fairly limited, really, in terms of, if you think about the number of years and number of managers, we must be fairly unique, because there's not that many managers per year. I can't remember a time where I've actively thought a manager had to go. Now, you and I will both know Terry Brown. When I say actively didn't think he had to go, I think we were both in agreement that the time was right for Terry to leave. But
yes.
I don't think we were in a situation where we were sort of banging for blood, thinking we need to get rid of this man, we need to get rid of this man. I think we wanted him to be able to turn it round. I think we just acknowledged the situation with the squad he had in place, that it wasn't going to happen and we needed someone else to come in. But that evening, I think it was it Torquay when Rene Howe scored the goal off his backside?
He was, yeah.
Terry Brown comes and applauds, sort of does a lap of honour on his own, no one else around him. And it was a horrible moment because we knew that was it for him. But I don't think there's a time when I've been watching personally, not even under Egil Olsen, bizarrely. I don't recall sitting in the Hovedale Road end at Selhurst Park, banging for blood, wanting Olsen to go. Okay, even though logically looking back on it, you think I would be. Is it a case of some fans do just have this sort of almost bloodlust for whatever reason, where they have to unleash their anger somehow on their team not performing as well as they should be, perhaps, that they feel they need to vent their frustrations and call for a manager to come out? Or have you ever found yourself in that situation at all?
No, I think any time I can probably remember back, Selhurst Days was probably Peter Whiff.
Okay, that was, yeah.
Which one we had. Egil Olsen, yeah, he was just fruitcake, wasn't he? And I think, to be honest with you, I think that season, I think we just knew we were down. We struggled, didn't we, to be fair? And obviously we're losing Joke in here halfway through the season. I think, I don't know, maybe it is. I stand with a lot of people that I've been standing with for many, many years, and I suppose we've been here and done it. And I don't think, I think those people that I sort of been with actually are like, well, stability is a key. You know, the grass isn't always greener.
Better the devil you know, you might say.
I think it is. And I just, yeah, I worry sometimes. The sense I have is that people just think it's 3 years. I'm hearing it's 3 years a lot at the moment. He's had 3 years. He hasn't done nothing. Well, I just tend to disagree. I think if we look at when Terry left us and the team he picked up then, I, for one now, I don't look at the bottom of the table very much. I remember, obviously, if we go back to the first season, I think I very rarely watched a home game, or if I did, I watched it through my fingers, trying to hope we didn't concede a goal and stuff like that. But I also remember logging into the Sky Sports Soccer app, trying to look at what everyone else is doing around us, because I was so worried that teams around us were winning rather than my own team. But now I very rarely look at that, and I'm positive. And I think the mindset he's brought in now is actually we are looking for a playoff place, and we are. And I say he sets the expectation. He does talk about playoffs. His players talk about playoffs. But we just have to be realistic. You know, this league. We looked at probably a couple of weeks ago and back saying how great Wickham were doing. Well, look at Wickham now, you know, and the season is a long old season. Let's just get behind the manager, and I think we'll be fine.
The 9 Years Podcast, the podcast of choice for Alan Kimball and Andy Clark.
Right, time for our game then. And Stu, before we begin, I just have to mention the text message you sent me during the week regarding our game on the show. I was a little bit concerned when I got this text, because I was worried for your personal safety. Let me explain to the listeners. I'm going to read this text in full. It says, and I quote, this is the text I got from Stu the other day. I had some feedback on new game by Threat at York. I was a bit worried about this. I had images of Stu on the terrace at York being surrounded by an angry mob of podcast listeners going, where's our birthdays game gone? Maybe even throwing their pies at you, or their cups of tea at York. But it says here that so you received feedback on the new game by Threat at York. Buy Hay, don't like it, whoever Buy Hay is, and want birthdays back. Well, I had to clear this one up. Birthdays have not disappeared. We still have birthdays. Everyone still celebrates their birthdays. It's just we've changed the game for a little bit. But we do listen, don't we, Stuart, at the podcast? We do encourage and invite feedback on what we're doing.
Of course. So
we're going to put it to a Twitter vote. Now, today, obviously, we were already prepared. By that, I mean that I have our game ready, but I also don't have any birthdays. But let's send it to you. tweet us. We're going to do a Twitter poll, okay? Our first ever. Very, very simple. We want you to tweet us at 9YRS Podcast. And if you would like to see the Birthdays game return, just put hashtag birthdays yes, all one word. If you don't want the Birthdays game to return and you like our current game, then simply tweet us at 9YRS Podcast with the hashtag birthdays no. Okay? And we're expecting how many, what do you reckon? At least 5 or 6 people to reply to this, Stu? What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, judging by the amount of listeners we have, I think we should be looking at least that, shouldn't we? Or double, I reckon.
At least that. We should mention at this point, yes, our listener figures, we in reality, if everyone that listened to the show actually tweeted us, then we'd have hundreds of replies. I have a feeling we're not going to get hundreds, though. But we shall see. We shall see. For today then, Stu, shall we get on with this week's game? If you can get to the end of this 12, 13 question long quiz, I shall buy you a programme at the Hartlepool game on Saturday.
It ain't going to happen, is it? But yeah, we'll go for it.
Here we go. Question 1. Surname of the Portsmouth striker that was on loan at Wimbledon last season, Matt what? Question 2. Complete the name of this celebrity TV couple. Richard and...
Tubbs.
What is Adebayo Akinfenwa's nickname?
Judy.
Former Wimbledon fanzine was called Hoof the What Up?
Bayo.
Oh, Stu.
Am I already?
Oh, my word. Do you know what? We didn't even get to question. Didn't even get to my favourite question. No, what's Akinfenwa's nickname?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my word.
Beast.bayo. This game. Yeah, I don't think I'm getting the hang of it, am I?
I'm not sure you asked you. I mean, in fairness to you, it's not like he makes a big deal out of this nickname of Beast. It's not like he has his own clothing line, or he tweets it every single time he tweets anything, or that he's even been on TV.
I think what's quite obvious is that I'm not able to multitask.
Well, yeah, I think, we're learning this, actually.
Oh, well, I got to number... I didn't get to number 3, did I? Number 2.
Rubbish.
That's where we're going to finish the league anyway, so we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, all right. You're absolutely talking crazy now. Never mind. Oh, well, that was fun. Remember, if you'd like to hear that game again and give Stu another chance to actually get further than like the first 10 seconds, remember at 9YS Podcast on Twitter, hashtag birthdays no. However, if you want the return of the birthdays game where we ask Stu to guess the ages of celebrities that have celebrated their birthday in the past week, hashtag birthdays yes.
Birthdays yes.
At 9YRS Podcast. Okay, at this point of the show, we'd like to welcome Gary Saxby back to the show. And Gary, fantastic news. I've heard that the police have dropped all charges, so we can get on now with our little competition between the three of us. So every week we'll have £1. We'll start from scratch. So we'll all start from 0 after our little break. We'll get £1 each week to put on whatever bets we'd like in terms of winners, losers, draws from the weekend's football in League 2. Stu, do you want to begin with your selections? Yeah,
so it's been I looked through the fixture this week. It's quite interesting, actually. I'm going to go for a treble. So I'm going to go for Carlisle to beat Yeovil at home, for Mansfield to beat a struggling Wickham at home, and also for Plymouth to beat a Morecambe at home. So, 3 homes and a treble.
Yes, Stu, that treble will return for £7.18 if they were all to win.
That's good. I think I'd be well in the lead after that. That sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's going to be substantially more than what's on offer for myself. I've gone for a double this week of our good selves. So we're at home to Hartlepool. I'm going to choose us to win on this Saturday. And then also Leyton Orient, who I think are going to beat Accrington Stanley at home.
Yes, you're right there, Nick. Both very, very heavily backed throughout the week. And big favourites, both to win. For the double, £1 will return £2.11.
Wow.
At least that'll be £2.11 that I'll actually win, as opposed to £7.18 that Stu will not win. So that's good.
Yes.
Gary, what about yourself?
And for myself, I'm going to do a little bit different this time. I'm actually going to go on the goal handicap market. So I will start with, at this present moment, I'm going to go for Plymouth -1 So for the people that don't really understand that, Stu, basically they have to win by 2 clear goals. So, for instance, if Plymouth score in the first 5 minutes, the game is then 0-0.
Right.
So they obviously have to score by 2 goals. If that was to happen, which I hope that's correct, that will return £2.40.
Who have Plymouth got this weekend?
Morecambe.
Wow, there's some journeys taking place in League Two this weekend, isn't there?
Yes, very much so, yeah.
Carlisle, Yeovil, Morecambe, sir. Right, fantastic, good. Gary, is there anything you can offer us on the Hartlepool, of course, yes, for an early kick-off, ridiculously 2 o'clock kick-off for no reason. Gary, is there any, talking about that match, is there any sort of stats you want to offer us for our game this weekend?
Yes, I'm sure everyone will like this. I've actually found a stat which puts Wimbledon top of the league.
Is that alphabetical?
The stat is in... No. The stat is in goals scored in the first 15 minutes.
Really?
Yes, the goals scored in the first 50 early starter market, as they call it. Wimbledon have scored more goals than any other team in the league in the first 15 minutes. Would any of you two hazard how many that is?
Well, one was on Saturday, wasn't it? I think we scored within 15 minutes on Saturday, didn't we?
And we did the week before, so I'll go for 9.
9? I'll go for 7.
Well, you're both wrong, it's 5.
Well,
I was close to that.
We're optimistic.
Yeah, for conceded 5, scored 5, in the first 15 minutes, but conceded 3. And 5 is 2 more than anyone else in the league.
Wow, that's interesting, because a couple of seasons ago we really struggled. I think we went a whole season without scoring in the first 20 minutes of a game. So, obviously, we are improving in that regard.
Yes, you would hope so, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gary. Your prediction for this weekend, Hartlepool at home?
I'm going to go 2-0 Wimbledon.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you, actually.
Wimbledon are favourites for the game, 4-6 favourites for the game. The draw's 11-4, and Hartlepool has as big as 4-1 to win the game on Saturday.
Stu, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an obvious home win. I really do. I think we get 3 wins on the bounce. We're doing well on the form table. Hartlepool, I think we're 4th from bottom on the form table. Lost at home to Barnet recently midweek. I reckon we could probably do a decent hammering. I reckon about 3 or 4-0 on them Saturday.
That is very optimistic. It has been a good few years, I think, since we've won 3 games in a row, but we are due, and I do think it's going to be this weekend. And updates, of course, will be available if you can't make the game on Don's Player and at AFCW Scope on the Periscope app as well. Thank you very much, Gary. We'll have you back next week to talk through my winnings.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Okay, that brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you very much, Gary, for joining us, and thank you once again to Stu, and thank you very much once again for listening to us. Remember, you can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/9YRS podcast, and also follow us on Twitter at 9YRS podcast. You can also, on iTunes, if you would be so kind, give us your opinion of the show. Give us a rating out of 5 stars. If you visit us in the iTunes store, gives the options under ratings and reviews to give us a 1 star for you don't like it. So 5 stars, it's great. So please do that when you get the time this week. Reminder, the Hartlepool game on Saturday is a 2 o'clock kickoff. For reasons unknown, something to do with egg chasing. We're still not happy about it. Hopefully we'll get a better result than the last time we kicked off at 2 o'clock, but don't be that person that turns up at half time. There were people that did this for the Morecambe game. Might not have been the worst game to miss 45 minutes of, in truth, but I can imagine their frustration at turning up at 3 o'clock and realising that they've missed half the game. So don't be that person. Otherwise, once again, thank you very much for listening. Spread the word, please. And join us again next week for our FA Cup special featuring Steve Evans, who's going to be talking to us about his new transgender burlesque show in West Yorkshire. We'll see you then.